Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jai Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Padajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Padajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Bhad Paramahamsa, Padurjakacharya, Ashtotar, the Sri Srimad, Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa, Padurjakacharya, Ashtotar, the Sri Srimad, Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavindra ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Michelle, it's not Wednesday. Thank you for coming. Now, I don't have my other book with the spot in it. Does anyone know exactly where we are? Tapas, you 14, there? Okay, tell me. Now, hold on, wait. We're speaking at the same time. Now go ahead.
Page 14, first paragraph.
What's the page again?
14.
14.
First paragraph.
Third, you say?
First paragraph.
First full paragraph. Beginning Vedic knowledge, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Guru.
All right. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On the 17th day of January, 2022 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in the introduction, page 14 of most of your books. And the second paragraph, first full paragraph starting Vedic knowledge. Vedic knowledge is not imported by such defective living entities. Vedic knowledge is not imparted by such defective living entities. It was imparted unto the heart of Brahma, the first created living being, and Brahma in his turn disseminated this knowledge to his sons and disciples, as he originally received it from the Lord. The Lord is Purnam, all perfect, and there is no possibility of his becoming subjected to the laws of material nature. One should therefore be intelligent enough to know that the Lord is the only proprietor of everything in the universe, and that he is the original creator, the creator of Brahma. In the 11th chapter, the Lord is addressed as Prapitamaha, because Brahma is addressed as Pitamaha, the grandfather, and he is the creator of the grandfather. Krishna is the creator of the grandfather. So no one should claim to be the proprietor of anything. One should accept only things set aside for him by the Lord as his quota for his maintenance. There are many examples given of how we are to utilize those things which are set aside for us by the Lord. This is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita. In the beginning, Arjuna decided that he should not fight in the battle of Kurukshetra. This was his own decision. Arjuna told the Lord that it was not possible for him to enjoy the kingdom after killing his own kinsman. This decision was based on the body because he was thinking that the body was himself and that his bodily relations or expansions were his brothers, nephews, brothers-in-law, grandfathers, and so on. Therefore, he wanted to satisfy his bodily demands. The Bhagavad Gita was spoken by the Lord just to change this view, and at the end, Arjuna decides to fight under the directions of the Lord when he says, Kadishye vachanam tava, I shall act according to your word. Om jnana timirandasya jnanandana shalakaya chakshu unmilitam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So Srila Prabhupada, in the first paragraph we read, says Vedic knowledge is not imparted by such defective living entities. And of course he's referring to the previous paragraph. And a mundaner, someone who's not a transcendentalist, who's not a yogi, just an ordinary person, has these four defects, as mentioned in the second to last sentence. He's sure to commit mistakes, is invariably illusion, has the tendency to cheat others, and is limited by imperfect senses. So as I mentioned last time, it's easy to think of these in kind of a different order. The first thing is we have imperfect senses. And because we have imperfect senses, we make mistakes. And what's the main mistake that we make? Yes, we are convinced completely that I'm the body. I mean, what else would I be? This is my name, I got a certain weight, a gender, all right, language, ethnicity. That's who I am. But that's, Chris said, no. The body is just a temporary covering for the soul. We've had many bodies, and we've, even in this lifetime we've had many bodies. Has anyone here not been 5 years old, 10 years old, 20, 15 years old? No. And each time we go through, that's a different body. Didn't you have a different body when you were 5 years old? So but this person is the same, the body is different, therefore you're not the person, isn't it? Just like you change clothes, when it gets too hot, you have to wear so many jackets. When it gets cold, when it gets too hot, you take them off, you wear different clothes. Eventually they wear out, you get new ones, but you're not the clothes, you're the same person, right? So similarly, this body eventually wears out. Who can deny it? You will die. It dies. Everyone in this room will die. But that's not to worry about because you don't die. The body dies. But as long as we think we're the body, we're going to think, I'm dying. And that's a cause of great anxiety. And that's the beginning of all illusion. So we have imperfect senses, we make mistakes, and because we keep making the mistake that I'm the body, that's called an illusion or a delusion. And therefore, then we cheat by teaching this to others, this misconception to others. So how can we get real knowledge if we're beset by all of these defects from the source of knowledge that doesn't have these defects? Krishna is not beset by these defects. His senses are perfect. He can see and hear everything. He's a super soul, all pervading. That means he's in everyone's heart. God is in everyone's heart. And he knows everything. So if we can get knowledge from him, then our knowledge will be perfect. We'll be able to operate in complete confidence that we're doing the best thing for our future. Because this is a very important point. God is not only all-powerful, but he's all-loving too. He has no envy. He has no reason to dominate us. He's completely free in the spiritual world. So why does he take any trouble? Because his affection for us is undying, unlike ours. We forgot all about him. we have to reawaken that original affection, that original consciousness. So here is in the paragraph we read, that Krishna is categorically different from these Purnam. Now Purnam means complete or all perfect, Prabhupada says. The famous verse, Om Purnamadak Purnamidam Purna Purnamudachyate. Those who study the Ishopanishad, the first verse, it's not even the verse, it's called the invocation. Says the absolute truth is complete. From him come all complete units. And even though he's a complete unit, all these bodies and the universes they all emanate from him. Still, he remains a complete balance. He's not diminished in the least. This is inconceivable. There's so many things that are inconceivable about God. So he cannot be subject to the material nature. So therefore, the point is that if we want real knowledge that will be infallible, that we can rely on, then we have to get it from this transcendental source. We can't get it directly because we're too fallen, we're too covered, but we need an intermediary, and that's where the spiritual master or the guru comes in, and that's what Prabhupada is giving us here. He's giving us the knowledge as Krishna's transparent agent. Okay, there are many examples given. I read that one. In this world, men are not meant for quarreling like cats and dogs. Men must be intelligent to realize the importance of human life and refuse to act like ordinary animals. A human being should realize the aim of his life, and this direction is given in all Vedic literatures. And the essence is given in the Bhagavad Gita. Vedic literature is meant for human beings, not for animals. Animals can kill other living animals, and there is no question of sin on their part. But if a man kills an animal for the satisfaction of his uncontrolled taste, he must be responsible for breaking the laws of nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly explained that there are three kinds of activities according to the different modes of nature: the activities of goodness, of passion, and of ignorance. Similarly, there are three kinds of eatables also: eatables in goodness, passion, and ignorance. All of this is clearly described, and if we properly utilize the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, then our whole life will become purified, and ultimately we will be able to reach the destination which is beyond this material sky. Yodgat vanadavartante tad dhamma paramang mama. Anyone know what that means? Yes. There's several places in the Gita where Krishna expresses this. Is that once we return, this phrase, going back home, back to Godhead. So once we go back there, we'll never come back here. There's a concept of once burned, twice shy. Have you ever heard of that? Prabhupada uses that actually as a teaching. So a little child is there and he wants to put his hands in the fire. And the father says, no. But the kid insists, so he says, okay, go ahead. So he put his hands in the fire, burned, and for the rest of his life, he knows fire. No. Once burned, twice shy. So we've been burned by coming to this world, trying to... Yes, sir? Oh, okay. Can you just wait a second? Okay. And make sure he has a mic, okay? Yeah. So, we suffered so much in this world, but we don't know why. We don't know where the suffering is. We have all kinds of strategies for mitigating the suffering, but we're not really getting to the root of the problem. Just as if you have a disease, you have to have it diagnosed first and get a proper prescription for how to cure the disease. If you just speculate on how to do it, then you can get into a lot of trouble. So we have a disease. The body itself is a disease. It's in a disease condition. We're meant to be eternal. We're meant to be full of bliss, full of knowledge. But we don't. In this body, we don't experience that. We're certainly not eternal. We're certainly not always blissful. And there's so many things we don't know. So how do we lose that Satchidananda character? By disconnecting ourselves from the source of all that, from Krishna. Turning our back on God and trying to dominate and enjoy and own and control this material world. That's the disease. That false ego, false sense of separateness from Krishna. So that has to be cured. And the process of curing it is bhakti yoga. Learning how, again, turn the mind toward Krishna, chiefly through sound vibration, the holy name, and all of these other sound vibrations, the Bhagavad Gita, and then being able, and then having practical service for engaging the senses. This is the cure. Yes, Bhakta Mark. You're on. Uh-oh, is it on? Just hold the button until the light goes on.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, so I just want to collect as much as possible information about this topic. I always want to ask you about this, but you just got straight to the point. So please, I understand that it's the night time and you have received it, but please give me all the information possible about this. I know that when we are on Goloka Vrindavan, there's a cloud. So those inhabitants, the people in Goloka Vrindavan that gets below that cloud, they just disappear and came to the material existence.
Well, I don't know about the cloud idea, but the idea is that we have this minute independence, and a certain number of us, we're among those, we misuse that independence. Why do we have independence? Because that's a prerequisite for love. Love cannot be forced, it has to be freely given. So we are created by Krishna, or emanated by Krishna, because we're beginningless also, with that minute independence. And that we're among those who misuse the independence and try to imitate Krishna. And therefore we become fallen. But Srila Prabhupada explains it I wish I can send you or give to you, in a famous letter called the Crow and Towel letter, which I won't explain why it's that way. I'll name that at this point. But he explains it's kind of a dreaming thing. It's kind of a dreaming. We have fallen asleep, and we're dreaming all these bodies one after another. And it seems like we're living, for millions of years on this planet, that is going on. But when we awaken and go back to Godhead, we wake up and it seems like a split second. You see? In other words, the whole thing is a phantasmagoria. But because it's all we know, and it seems very real, therefore the suffering is real for the soul. But ultimately, it's just a dream world. That's the idea.
Well, the point is, all this topic generates to me anger and anxiety, because I honestly, in my mind, I feel I will be cheated again. Hey, I have a mission for you. So the point is, I do not know the reason for being here, and I definitely don't want to come back. So I want to know more about, you say that nobody comes from there. I understand that you are safe, but if for some reason Krishna wants you to come here, he's going to make you.
The idea, it's up to us. It's not that you're going to be cheated. If you'll cheat yourself. It's entirely up to you. Krishna doesn't want us to come here to suffer. He doesn't want us to suffer. But we have willfully denied the basic principle of being able to stay in Goloka Vrindavan. And that is to be constantly in the mood of service for Krishna, for his pleasure. And then we find ourselves in an ocean of bliss. It's paradoxical, but that's the way it works. You forget all about your own bliss. You just worry about Krishna's service, Krishna's pleasure. Then you find yourself in bliss. Just like the mother. She's not worrying about, she's worrying about her child. If the child is happy and healthy, then the mother's happy. If the mother puts the child down and goes partying somewhere and comes back and the child is, then suddenly, oh, what have I done? You know what I'm saying? So that's the way it is. We're part and parcel of God. And therefore, if we don't serve God, we try to serve our non-self, which is this body that's covering this temporary body, we will be cheated again and again. Because there's no basis of happiness here. It's just flickering pleasure that ultimately comes to the point of old age, disease, and death. And then where's your pleasure? You may have a very nice young body now and forget about that. Oh, that's a million years away. I remember, I like to tell this story. I lived in Miami for a while, working on Srimad Bhagavatam. And we had a temple right on the beach. And they had just built a boardwalk just before I got there. And Miami Beach is a traditional retirement place. People would come down and they would get condos, from New York and everything. So there's a lot of old people down there. And they would walk on the boardwalk, doddering along with their canes and everything, And just like 20 feet away, there were these young people, a lot of Brazilians would come up when it's winter down there, it's summer, they would come up and they would party and they were playing volleyball. They set up a whole thing and they're having just a grand time, And these are, of course, the higher, upper crust of Brazil had money to fly up in Miami and back, like that. So they're young, they're healthy, they're wealthy, And just 25 feet away, there's these old doddering people, They're not thinking, I'm going to be like that sometime. Am I wasting my time here? Is there anything I can do? No, I remember when I was 8, I'm constitutionally 18 years old, 20, maybe 20. 21, I'll be 20. And these are constitutionally old people. That's the illusion. That doesn't dawn on you, I'm going to be like that soon. Because when you're young, time goes much slower. When you get older, it goes faster and faster. Believe me, I know. So everyone's facing that. So where is the happiness? It's like, didn't Jesus say you're building your house on the sand? Something like that? It's exactly like that. You were building all of these constructs of how I'm going to be happy and safe and so, and I got it together. You don't got it together. Time is taking everything away. And Krishna says, Mrityu sarvaharas chaham. As death, I take everything away. So if you don't believe in God during your lifetime, you'll believe in God when He comes and takes everything away. You can't stop it. There He is, everything, time, death. So that's depressing. But the point is, that's real life. But there's a way out. And if you don't accept the way out, then you continue to suffer, birth after birth. That's just the way it is. You may lose the human form of life, which is a great tragedy. So what does the Shastra say? Labdva sudurlabhamidam bahusambhavante manushimata tamanityamapi adhira turnam yateta nabateta namitya yavad nikshe yasaya vishaya karusarva taksyat. Having achieved this human form of life after many births in lower species, very rare human form of life. And why is it so valuable? Artadam, because it gives the chance to make the solution to all the problems of life. Don't come back. Isn't there? There's a book we have out here called Coming Back, and the last chapter is Don't Come Back. Yeah, written by Mukunda Maharaj. He oversaw that book. If we don't accept it, then we can go on living as we are for a while, But that's the program of Krishna consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada is giving this introduction. He spoke this, as I mentioned last week, or one of the weeks, that he didn't really know that he was going to have a movement. He recorded this before there was any Hare Krishna movement. He was living uptown. He was living alone, basically. He had a big old reel-to-reel tape recorder. Many of you probably have never seen one of those. I used to have one. And he recorded this whole thing on his own. And then the tape recorder was stolen, but they left the tape, thank God. And that was the real treasure we have here. The Prabhupada is laying it all out right here in the introduction in case this is it. You may not have a chance. All right, let's go on. Where were we? The destination? Sanatan sky, right? That destination is called the Sanatan sky, the eternal spiritual sky. Sanatan means eternal. In this material world, we find that everything is temporary. It comes into being, stays for some time, produces some byproducts, dwindles, and then vanishes. This is the law of the material world, whether we use as an example this body or a piece of fruit or anything. But beyond this temporary world, there is another world of which we have information. That world consists of another nature, which is Sanatan, or eternal. The Jiva, that's us, is also described as Sanatan, eternal. And the Lord is also described as Sanatan in the 11th chapter. We have an intimate relationship with the Lord, and because we are all qualitatively one, the Sanatan Dhamma, or sky, the Sanatan Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Sanatan living entities, the whole purpose of the Bhagavad Gita is to revive our Sanatan occupation, our eternal occupation, or Sanatan Dharma, which is the eternal occupation of the living entity, the soul. We are temporarily engaged in different activities, but all of these activities can be purified when we give up all these temporary activities and take up the activities which are prescribed by the Supreme Lord. That is called our pious life. The Supreme Lord and His transcendental abode are both Sanatan, as are the living entities, and the combined association of the Supreme Lord and the living entities is the Sanatan abode, is the perfection of human life. The Lord is very kind to the living entities because they are His sons. Lord Krishna declares in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Yonishu, aham bija pradak pita. I am the father of all. Of course, there are all types of living entities according to their various karmas. But here the Lord claims that He is the father of all of them. Therefore, the Lord descends to reclaim all of these fallen conditioned souls, to call them back to the Sanatan eternal sky, so that the Sanatan living entities may regain their eternal Sanatan positions in eternal association with the Lord. The Lord comes Himself in different incarnations, or He sends His confidential servants as sons or His associates or acharyas to reclaim the conditioned souls. Therefore, Sanatan Dharma does not refer to any sectarian process of religion. It is the eternal function of the eternal living entities in relationship with the eternal Supreme Lord. Sanatan Dharma refers, as stated previously, to the eternal occupation of the living entity. Sripad Ramanujacharya has explained the word Sanatan as, quote, that which has neither beginning nor end. So when we speak of Sanatan Dharma, we must take it for granted on the authority of Sripad Ramanujacharya, that it has neither beginning nor end. So, Prabhupada will then explain what religion means in relation to Dharma. So Dharma is what differentiates human beings from animals. Ahara nidra bayamaitanangsha samanya netat pashabhi naranam. Dharma hitesham adigo vishesho dharmena hina pashabhi samana. That we share four basic functions with the animals: eating, sleeping, mating, and fearing or defending. And they do it in very rudimentary ways. We can all do it in very, elaborate ways, but it's the same process. So what is it that differentiates us? Are we just polished animals, if that's all we are? No, dharmena, dharma hitesham adhiko vishesha, that dharma is the distinguishing quality of a human being. But if there's no dharma, then we're nothing but polished animals, and we're wasting the precious human form of life. So what is real dharma? That's the question. This is answered in the Bhagavad Gita and also in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Real dharma is that which awakens our original nature. Savaipang sang paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhokshaje ahaituki pratayata yatma supersediti. The word supersediti means fully satisfied. What can bring full satisfaction to the soul? We all have experienced that sense gratification doesn't do that. Even if it may bring a little temporary satisfaction, you're soon unsatisfied, and it's impossible to keep it sustained. It's very flickering. So we're constantly looking for new things, and it's this phrase we mentioned this morning: "Punak punascharvita charvananam," chewing that which has already been chewed. So we try the same thing in a little different variety and think that we're going to get something new out of it. But at the end, after some time, the body becomes unable to sustain that, and it's just a source of suffering. So that which is that's not real happiness, which is flickering like that. That is like the lure to keep us bound up to this material world. So what this verse says is that real dharma for the human being, savai pungsam means human being, paro dharma, supreme dharma, is that which evokes loving devotional service or bhakti for adhokshaja. Now, adhokshaja, I explained this name. This is a name for Krishna, which means he who is beyond the reach of our mind and senses. It's the very essence of what is called transcendental. Transcendental means beyond the reach of our material mind and senses. So how can we know? We need an intermediary. Krishna has to reach out to reveal himself, give us a way of perceiving him in this world. So the most important way he does it, through sound, the holy name, but also through the deity form, through especially the books. This Bhagavad Gita means the song of God. He took the trouble to come down from the spiritual world in order to reinstitute Dharma. There's this famous verse. You probably know this. Yada yadahi dharmasya. Did you learn it as a child? Yeah. Yada yadahi dharmasya glana bhavati bharata. Whenever there is discrepancy in the execution of Dharma, which becomes more and more prominent in the Kali Yuga, which we live in, yada yadahi glanium, it means discrepancy. Abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam sajja. And when adharma becomes very prominent and powerful in the material world, I come myself. Now, Krishna doesn't come as himself, as a two hands playing the flute, every Kali Yuga. He comes once in a day of Brahma, which is a long, long time. But he always has his representative, or he comes in another form. He makes sure that we have a chance to contact him. So why is he concerned? Again, because he's connected to us. It's just like parents. You know, the son leaves home, runs away, goes to San Francisco. They're living in Duluth, Minnesota or something. Oh, where's our boy? Is he going to write? Is he going to text maybe? Maybe he'll show up. We'll keep his room clean so he can. So they're always thinking about him, but he's not thinking about them anymore. He's having a ball somewhere. He's trying to have So that's Krishna. He's the Supreme Father. He's always thinking about welfare. How can we be induced to return again and take up our blissful life? And that's what the Bhagavad Gita is. It's a message for us. He's arranged for it to be spoken to Arjuna. Arjuna represents us. Arjuna was bewildered. He voluntarily took on this, he was covered by Krishna, actually by Maya, so that he identified with his physical relationship and bodily, because it's the same family. The Kurus are all one family, really. Bhishma Dev was there, grandfather, his precious teacher, as brothers-in-law, friends. So he's saying, well, what do I want to fight this battle for? Who is it for? How can I enjoy a kingdom that's soaked with the blood of the people who I love? I'm going to the forest and beg. But that didn't work, really. It's not his duty, and he knew that Krishna wanted him to fight, so he's paralyzed. So then what does he do? The key, he surrenders as a disciple of Krishna as his guru. No longer as simply a friend that they're having friendly talks, you see. And as soon as he does that, Krishna chastises, says, you're speaking all these learned words, but you're making a big mistake. It's all on the basis of the body. It's a huge mistake. I remember that's the main mistake. And then systematically, Krishna explains to him why he has to transcend this bodily attachment and fight, even though it may be painful, but in the end, it's the best for everyone. Everyone on the battlefield, really, And it will reinstitute Dharma in the person of Yudhishthira, Arjuna's older brother. So that's the essence of bhakti, is that you accept the instruction of Shastra, which is genuine Shastra, is the word of God and word of Krishna. And as it says, tasmat shastra pramanam te karya vavastito. In order to determine infallibly what's the right thing to do and what's the right thing to avoid doing, one has to consult Shastra. And Srila Prabhupada sacrificed his life, basically, writing these books and seeing that they were distributed, translated, edited, nicely illustrated, so they were all attractive, so that we would have a genuine source of knowledge that we can rely on to live according to, so that we can improve our lives, we can begin our paths back to Godhead. And so this Savai Pungsang Paro Dharma, he's saying that real Dharma is that which awakens that bhakti to Krishna, who is the transcendental Lord. But it has to be unmotivated, meaning unmotivated by any material motivation, and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Now that's a tall order. We may do our bhakti. Yeah, I do my bhakti on Sunday evenings. That's good, but now you have to expand it. Sunday morning, Saturday morning. The point is that the real success is when you do it 24 hours a day, like breathing. That's our actual nature. So it's a process. It may take several lifetimes, but we've had millions of lifetimes where we haven't made any progress. So this is what Krishna is doing. This Sanatan to reawaken us to our Sanatan Dharma, our eternal Dharma, which is loving devotional service to Krishna. We're part and parcel of Krishna. Therefore, when we serve Krishna and for his pleasure, we become happy. And it's the spiritual happiness, not depending on the external body. Yes, Dhanavai, where's the mics? We have more than one mic.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. My question is, you mentioned that it's good for everybody if Arjun if he fights. So what is the good in fighting? What kind of dharma is establishing by fighting? I know it was against Duryodhan was not doing
Well, you have to see it, from the full perspective. Krishna's on the battlefield. There's a verse in the Bhagavatam describing, the way Prabhupada translates it, that everyone who died on the battlefield attained their original form because Krishna was there. In other words, even though they die, the whole second chapter is dedicated. Nobody dies, you know. Najayate mriyate vakadachan. That's the same famous verse, 2:20. You can look it up. Nobody dies and nobody is born. All of us are eternal, unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. We are not slain when the body is slain. Now, with that firmly in mind, we're talking about changing dress here. Yes, it's traumatic, but it quickly, you know, everyone is blessed because Krishna is there. So that, you know, that's completely opposite to what we would normally think, and it's a huge bloodbath. I mean, Yudhishthira was traumatized by it. It says in the Bhagavatam, he was so traumatized. All the millions of dead bodies and the animals also. You know, there's a lot of elephants and horses who killed. You know. So then he went to Bhishma Dev, and Bhishma Dev spoke to him for hours, actually, maybe days, and encouraged him and said, "No, this is for the best," and everything, you know, and everything. And then he became ruler. He took it. So this is the point. It's sometimes very hard for us to see how our best interest is served by doing things that are not pleasing to the body, or even the mind, you know, the material mind. But ultimately, if we have faith, we'll say, yes, but I get through this. This is a visceral or reaction on the basis of the modes of nature. But I can see that this is the best thing for me. That if I, you know, rather than do this, if I chant Hare Krishna and I prosecute devotional service and I spend my time that way, this will be for my ultimate good. That's what the whole verse was. Labdvasadulam abhidam. Why would he speak this verse? Now, after many, many births through different species, you come to the human form of life, which alone is artadam, which can give you the ultimate values of life, but it's temporary, like all others. So don't waste any time. Turnam. Turnam means immediately. Yateta, strive for the nikshreyasa, as opposed to the prayas. Prayas is immediate good, or maybe next week, or maybe next month, or 2 years from now, but not for your eternal good. You see? So we have to understand, what is my ultimate good? What does Arjuna say when he surrenders to Krishna? He says, Karpan nidosho pahata svabhava prachamitvam dharma samudacheta. I'm bewildered about dharma. What is the right thing to do? So he didn't just quit and walk off. He sat down and then he listened to Krishna. He surrendered here. I've lost my real nature due to this miserly weakness. I can't fight. So now I'm approaching you. Please tell me for certain what's the best for me. Now I'm your shishya, I'm your disciple. And how can I achieve shreyasa? How can I achieve my ultimate good? That distinction is all important. As animals, little children, they can't distinguish. It's just all prayas. How can I be happy now? That's why they put the candy down, you know, when you check out. It says, Mommy, buy that. I need that. And then, okay. Impulse. So we grow up, human beings, you know, we have to go beyond impulse. What's good right now? What is good for our eternal soul? That's what the Krishna consciousness movement is all about. Okay. All right. It's almost 8 o'clock. Now, what paragraph are we on now? Factually? No. Anyway.
What religion?
Are we on page 17? Page number?
Page number I don't have. I'm reading in the online. I have the English word religion. It is
religion is the first word.
The English word religion is little different from Sanatana Dharma.
It's the second full paragraph on page 16 in my book.
16. Oh, the English word. Okay. The English word religion is a little different from Sanatana Dharma. Religion conveys the idea of faith, and faith may change. One may have faith in a particular process, and he may change this faith and adopt another. But Sanatana Dharma refers to that activity which cannot be changed. For instance, liquidity cannot be taken from water, nor can heat be taken from fire. Similarly, the eternal function of the eternal living entity cannot be taken from the living entity. Sanatana Dharma is eternally integral with the living entity. When we speak of Sanatana Dharma, therefore, we must take it for granted on the authority of Sripad Ramanujacharya that it has neither beginning nor end. That which has neither end nor beginning must not be sectarian, for it cannot be limited by any boundaries. Those belonging to some sectarian faith will wrongly consider that Sanatana Dharma is also sectarian. But if we go deeply into the matter and consider it in the light of modern science, it is possible for us to see that Sanatana Dharma is the business of all the people of the world, nay, of all the living entities of the universe. Non-Sanatana religious faith may have some beginning in the annals of human history, but there is no beginning to the history of Sanatana Dharma, because it remains eternally with the living entities. Insofar as the living entities are concerned, the authoritative Shastras state that the living entity has neither birth nor death. In the Gita, it is stated that the living entity is never born and he never dies. He is eternal and indestructible, and he continues to live after the destruction of his temporary material body. In reference to the concept of Sanatana Dharma, we must try to understand the concept of religion from the Sanskrit root meaning of the word. Dharma refers to that which is constantly existing with a particular object. We conclude that there is heat and light along with the fire. Without heat and light, there's no meaning to the word fire. Similarly, we must discover the essential part of the living being, that part which is his constant companion. The constant companion is his eternal quality, and that eternal quality is his eternal religion. When Sanatana Goswami asked Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the swarup of every living being, the Lord replied that the swarup, or constitutional position of the living being, is the rendering of service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we analyze this statement of Lord Chaitanya's, we can easily see that every living being is constantly engaged in rendering service to another living being. A living being serves other living beings in various capacities. By doing so, the living entity enjoys life. The lower animals serve human beings as servants serve their master. A serves B master, B serves C master, C serves D master, and so on. Under these circumstances, we can see that one friend serves another friend. The mother serves the son. The wife serves the husband serves the wife, and so on. If we go on searching in this spirit, it will be seen that there is no exception in the society of living beings to the activity of service. The politician presents his manifesto for the public to convince them of his capacity for service. The voters, therefore, give the politician their valuable votes, thinking that he will render valuable service to society. The shopkeeper serves the customer, and the artisan serves the capitalist. The capitalist serves the family, and the family serves the state in the terms of the eternal capacity of the eternal living being. In this way, we can see that no living being is exempt from rendering service to other living beings, and therefore we can safely conclude that service is the constant companion of the living being, and that the rendering of service is the eternal religion of the living being. So this idea of service sometimes is that really our eternal being? How is that so? Well, you can just look at your own life. And actually, in the morning we've been studying the mind. Remember, there's a whole chapter on the mind. And the mind is said to be the worst enemy, and also can be the best friend of the living being. So how do we have to serve the mind? Well, the mind is connected to the senses. And the mind is scanning. Where is something that's pleasurable? And here's something that's dangerous. Let me act in this way and reacting, and guiding the senses. So when the mind determines, oh, here's something that's going to be really pleasurable. Like we live in a world where advertising is so prominent. And now they have the science. They know where you're going. You know, they keep a record of where you're going on the internet, what you bought on Amazon. And so they give you advertisements for those things because they know there's more chance that you'll buy it. You already have a desire. It's proved that way. They try to manage that. So we're serving those desires. We're serving those impulses. We're certainly serving the senses. When we're hungry, we have to serve the stomach, right? When we're tired, we have to serve the whole body and lay down. So there's constant service going on. And the problem is that we're serving all the time, but the result of that service is not giving us eternal happiness. It's simply burying us deeper and deeper into the entanglement of the material world. Because there's always some other thing that we have to do to become comfortable, think we become happy here and there. And then, of course, inevitably we're cheated in various ways. You buy something. I bought some bananas the other day. Organic bananas. But what happens is because of the chain, of the supply chain, they stay on the boat too long in the cold, because it's cold weather, and they freeze or something, they don't get ripe. They're hanging on my little device there, but they're not getting the brown spots. I've been cheated. I thought I was going to be happy with the bananas, and now I'm being cheated. It's just a small thing, but it happens all the time, right? So this is the problem with these material services, is that they don't meet our criteria of reciprocation. So this is where bhakti comes in. Because in bhakti, you're serving the Supreme Lord, and He has a capacity to reciprocate with unlimited beings in the most wonderful way. And this is what you discover in devotional service. It's very paradoxical. You give up this, you give up that, aspirations here and there. But if you take on Krishna consciousness seriously, you find there's a sort of satisfaction that comes from serving Krishna, from chanting Hare Krishna. It's like magic. What is it? I've been chanting this mantra for 50 years. Almost. Next year it'll be 50. That was 49. So, I mean, come on. Saying, Prabhupada says, you try chanting John, 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 John. You get sick of it after 2 minutes. Even all of these wonderful songs that we learned in the 60s, you can only sing them so long. Okay, enough already. So anything material has a beginning, middle, and end, as Prabhupada says. Your taste for it wanes because it's hackneyed. But spiritual happiness and it never gets old. As Prabhupada points out, this Bhagavad Gita, they were starting again. I've been teaching this class for 30 years, and this is like the 4th, 5th, 6th time we've been through. I lost count. But it's not like, all right, we've read this book already. No, there's ever something new you discover. Because you change, Krishna reveals more, I mean, what verse in this book is not pertinent for everyone's life? Dehinosmin yata dehe. As the living entity passes through childhood and youth and middle age and old age and gets another body at death, the sober person is not bewildered by such a change. How can that go out of date? It happened 5,000 years ago. It happens now. It'll happen 5,000 years from now. And it's always this main question: how can you utilize the precious time in human life so that your next birth you'll have made progress toward your goal in life, which is to break free of the bonds of birth, old age, disease, and death? That's our main problem. You can't get away from it. You can try to forget it, and most people do. I used to work in a hospital, and I saw a lot of people pass out of the body. And it's always a great shocker. I mean, it's a horrible traumatic experience, because all the dreams, all the associations, all the things are gone. But for a devotee, we've had experience. I've been in a lot of bedsides with devotees. It's a different experience. Surrounded by the chanting of the holy name, and we had this departure of Shamali and our old friend, what is it? Rajendranath Prabhu, and so many others, and they're calm. You could see the difference, complete difference, because they worked during their lifetime to establish that consciousness and that ability to, full faith. So that's the final test. Everything is leading up to that. Everything else is just a prelude. And if we're not really preparing for that final exam, then the chances are, if we're lucky, we'll get another human form. And we lose the human form, it's a great tragedy. So that's what it never goes out of style. In other words, this is always the question. We may forget about it, we may try to ignore it, but the fact is that's the real point of human life, is to use it to reestablish our connection with Krishna and make progress at least. If we may not be able to go back to God in one life, at least make progress so that you have, maybe 3 lifetimes. But we've been in this world for millions of lifetimes. It's like, I like to point out, we won the lottery just by being human beings. Now let's cash in the ticket. Don't waste it. Don't put it in the bottom drawer and forget about it. Use the minutes, the seconds, the hours, the years that we have left for cultivating that Krishna consciousness so that we can succeed in life. All right, it's almost time. I'm going to end with a little poem. I'm sorry if someone didn't ask their question. But as Lord Rishabhdev says, now those who've been attending the morning class, we had wonderful instructions of Lord Rishabhdev. Now we're getting the wonderful instructions of Lord Rishabhdev's glorious son, who's been reborn as Jada Bharat, so it's a wonderful thing. So the first verse of Rishabhdev's instructions, Nayam Deho Dehabhajan Loke, I put it into a little poem, a little tweaking. It says, this poem is inspired by that first one. Don't waste your precious human life, dear friend, by working hard for haggish happiness. Through bhakti yoga, worldly life transcend and learn to taste divine love's endless bliss. That's the reality. So it's a call to, let's get serious. And let's have a nice kirtan. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.
All glories. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol.
That's our Shukri Prabhu.
Where's Shukri?
Hare Krishna. Zooming from Salt Lake City.
Hari Bol, Shukri.
Hare Krishna.
You're still one of us. You're still here, San Diego, in your expansion.
Yes. Hare Krishna. Thanks to the mercy of the Supreme Lord.